What's up, everybody? Welcome to GunNutTV. My name is Adam. You may recognize me from the channel Centerfire Podcast. Go subscribe to that channel. I'll put the links in the description below, but this is my intro video to this channel. You know, for those of you who've been subscribed, whether you're from my first channel I ever did, it was a gaming channel called Kills Gaming HD, or it used to be called Your Boy Kills. It was a gaming thing when I was younger. And then I decided to stop doing YouTube. And so then we just started up a channel, Centerfire Podcast, and it's about guns and politics around that. And I decided to, you know, before we even started out, I knew I was going to end up posting on this channel, but I decided not to right away because we were just starting up the Centerfire, but I decided to start posting on this channel. For those of you who don't know, this channel will be about, I mean, the name is pretty self-explanatory, but it's going to be mainly about guns, Second Amendment, and the politics around it, all that. That's the center of the content it's going to be. So if you're not a gun person, you may not enjoy this content, but you may enjoy it for my wonderful personality. But anyway, so I'll just give you a brief explanation about how I got into the gun world, you know, the owning firearms, because it wasn't always like that. I'm in my early 20s, so I'll just give you the age range. But okay, I'll explain the story. I have explained this in the podcast episode, so if you're from there, if you're fans from over there, you know this story, but I'll go ahead and say it for people who don't know. I wasn't always a gun person. I leaned more left when I was younger because I grew up in that political environment. So that's what it was. Now, I was never anti-gun. Like, I was never a person saying that nobody should own firearms, but I wasn't particularly fond of actual real firearms. Now, I can say I was a gamer. Obviously, I told you I had a gaming channel. So one of my favorite genres of games that I had, that I liked playing, was shooting games. So I actually appreciated, like, you know, the art of the way the guns looked, you know, where they're from. You know, I used to watch a channel. Actually, I still watch them, but not as often as I used to. But even before I owned guns, I used to watch the channel Hitcock 45. So shout out to you. But I used to watch that because it was cool seeing the real guns, but I was never a big fan of real guns at first. But 2020, when the George Floyd riots started, I seen that, you know, fires or people were setting houses on fire and buildings and stuff. And innocent people were getting killed, and just so much shit was happening, and for no good reason. And it made me worried, you know. And so I know my mom, shout out to mom, she kind of aided me getting firearms. Because she planted that in my head. There was one time where she mentioned, you know, we should get guns, you know, for protection or whatever. And I'm like, that might not be a bad idea. And she took me, when I told her I made up the decision to actually go get a gun, she said, well, I went to this pawn shop down the road, and they showed me a couple of guns, and you can come with me next time. So that day came, and we went to the pawn shop. And my mom first was interested in a Smith & Wesson Model 642. I think that's what it is. It's a J-frame, hammerless, even though it does have a hammer. It's just concealed into the gun. That was the first gun she was into, but then I'll have to explain that in a minute. But anyway, so the gun that I wanted and I was set on it was a Glock 17. Now, I liked Glocks. I knew they were good firearms because of police carried them and stuff like that, you know. That doesn't mean that they're going to be good, but it means that if departments trust them and there's never been any big issues with them, they got to be at least a somewhat halfway decent, gun. So I was just stuck on that. That's the gun I wanted, and I can't tell you like any like I was never a Glock person. I just wanted one, and I started doing research. That's one thing about me is I do a lot of research on things. So I did my research on Glock and stuff, and because there's different generations, so I basically did my research and I came to the conclusion that I wanted a Generation 4. And all the gens that were out were the first, second, third, fourth, fifth. All 5 generations were out. It's not like there was no problem getting 5th generation Glocks. I didn't want one. They had features on there that I wasn't going to really use, and it wasn't worth the extra money to me. So and at the time I wanted this gun, it was a good ammo shortage, okay? And then you had gun shortages in a sense. Like guns weren't as available as they used to be. I guess they used to be. So we went to a gun show, me and my mom, right? One in I live in Florida, so we went to the Tampa gun show. And out of all that, if you've ever been to the Tampa gun show, it's big, so there's a lot of vendors and they all have all types of guns. And out of all of those vendors now, I can say right now, when you go to those gun shows, especially a busy one like that, you get kind of rushed a lot, because it's like a lot of people and stuff. So we kind of like skimmed, we tried to look, but all the Glocks that I looked at, I didn't see a single Gen 4, but I almost want to bet that there probably was one there, but there's so many of them that it's, but I didn't personally see any Gen 4s. All I seen were Gen 5s and some 3s. Now, ironically, my favorite Gen is 3 now. I'll explain that probably on another video. But basically, since they didn't have the gun I wanted, and at first I was thinking, you know what, why don't I get a Gen 5 Glock? But then I was like, no, because I really don't want that gun. I don't want to spend $600 on a gun that I really didn't care to want. I want the gun, especially my first gun. I wanted the gun that I wanted. So I just waited. I put it off. I'm like, all right, and just give you a little bit of backstory, kind of. My uncle's wife, Barbie, I guess if you want to call her my aunt, I guess. I don't like using that term, but yeah. She ended up getting guns before I was into it. Like, she got it before me. She got a Glock 42 and a 22 and stuff. And so she was into it. That's the only other gun. And then my brother used to have them. And so that's the only other that guns I've seen. So basically, when we were at the gun show, I obviously didn't purchase it. So we went on about our day, and I decided to call some gun shops around. And every time I call the shop, they're like, I'm like, do you have any Glocks in stock? Nope, no Glocks, no Glocks, no Glocks. And just think about that, because Glocks are very popular. They're like one of the most popular pistols out there. And they're usually in abundance also at gun shops. Like, you see probably more Glocks than you see a lot of different guns, but there were no Glocks in stock. And I called so many different, gun shops and pawn shops, right? So I'm like, all right, I'm like, all right, let me look a little bit more. And I noticed at the time I worked at a gas station that was about 11 miles from where I lived. It's about a 20-minute drive. And I seen this shop, and I'll name it. The shop is Take Aim. And I'm like, it's close to my shop, or it's close to the store I used to work at. And I'm like, wait, what the? I'm like, I didn't even know there was a gun shop there. So basically, I called them, and I worked overnight at the time. So this was about 11 o'clock in the morning. And I called them, and I'm like, do you guys have any Glocks in stock? And they're like, not right now, but we will be getting a shipment in about around 2 or 3. So call back then. Or I think he said call back later, not 2 or 3, because you never know 100% when they're going to show up. So I think he said later, but I ended up calling around like 3 because I woke up. And keep in mind, I'm supposed to be sleeping at this time, but I wanted this gun so bad. So I literally called around 3. I said, I called it earlier, and the guy told me to call back because I'm looking for a Gen 4 Glock 17. And he goes, well, we got one in stock. I'm like, oh, hold that for me. I am coming right now and I will buy it. So I hauled ass down there, and I took a look at the gun, and at first I didn't even know it was special, but it turned out to be a special gun. But I was like, okay, yeah, it looks good, you know, and I bought it. I paid about $650 for it. And yeah, and that's how I got my first gun. And then from there, it's like domino effect. But other than that, that's basically how I got started. And I'll probably explain. I don't want to make this video too long, but I'll explain to you guys probably on another video on how I acquired each of my guns or whatever, because I have a good amount. But yeah, so that's basically my start. And I just want to let you know I am no expert. I'm none of that. I'm very new to firearms. I just got into it as of 2020 is my first time. So it'll be 3 years next year, June, that I've owned guns. So you take everything I say with a grain of salt, do your own research. And yeah, so that's how I got started. And this channel is going to be about all that. And I welcome everybody. So that's basically it. This is my intro video, and this is what the channel is going to be about. And shout out to Centerfire Podcast. That you guys go subscribe there, and I'll put the links down in the description. And yeah, that's basically it. So I'll see you guys later. Peace.